it is an incredibly important moment in any customer journey. And if you can nail it, you get more customers, you get more advocacy.
It's a great model. I'm really interested in how it all works, and I'm sure the listeners are.
I can make you feel brilliant about yourself and the brand in that final moment to make you super happy and go, actually, you know what? I love this brand.
How has that conversation shifted inside e-commerce brands?
You've got to make sure that it's commercially viable to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just reality. It's in the real world, unless it makes me money, it's very hard for me to do it.
But I guess people not sure maybe what to do.
I think people think it's tricky. It's because there's so many aspects to it. We have a company motto, which I think I'd apply to this, which is start by starting.
Welcome back to the eCommerce One podcast. Now today I'm joined by Ollie Cook from Echo, and we're talking about sustainability in e-commerce, but in a really practical way. Now in this episode, Ollie shares how brands can bring sustainability into the checkout experience, give customers the chance to support meaningful projects, and do it without adding friction to the buying journey. Very interesting topic. Very good podcast episode. We also get into why customers do care about sustainability and why it doesn't have to be complicated, and how small actions can help build stronger loyalty, better brand connection, and a more meaningful customer experience. So if you're an e-commerce brand trying to work out where sustainability fits in your growth strategy, this episode is well and truly worth a listen. Now do me one quick favor, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And now, let's dive in. Hey Ollie, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. Looks very sunny where you are.
It is. It's not 1,000,000 degrees, which is a positive, but it's and you can now see my dog. There you go. My dog's in the background walking through.
Hey, what's the dog called?
Seren, which is Welsh for star. My wife is Welsh, and we've got 2 kids, and their kids aren't Welsh names, but we agreed that the dog can have a Welsh name. So there you go.
Oh, nice. Seren. Well, I'm sure Seren's going to make a few appearances throughout the episode.
Yeah, she always does.
Right. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. Lots of good stuff to get into. So I think let's crack on. So I know you spent many years at a lot of the big brands, big banks that a lot of people listening will recognize, HSBC, Metro, and so forth. Watching a lot of change, a lot of investment in different financial products. And obviously sustainability, is maybe, back, many years ago, possibly sat in a brochure and was just a bit of a, tick box. There we go. It's in the brochure. But obviously now, from your perspective, it's very much, front and center of your business. What was the sort of moment for you where you were like, obviously in this maybe different world, slightly different, very different world to you're in now, but it sort of clicked and thought, you know what? Let's see where we can what we can do here.
Yeah, it's kind of, if I'm honest, it was no, this is it, right, let's go. Yeah. It was more of an evolution of learning more and more about businesses, learning more and more about organization, that kind of slowly migrating into there's a huge opportunity here. I guess my general view of people and sustainability is, for instance, most people are good. They want to do good. And they're in organizations that may not be doing the best thing for them, but actually most people are really good. And when it came to banking, financial services, payments, my realization was most organizations are doing an element of things to sort their house out. And if you look in banking or look in payments, for example, lots of people, we've got a 100-person office, we use renewable energy, we've got a little thing at the bottom of my email footer saying print less and all this stuff. All that is good, right? All of that is positive. They've got some bins somewhere. No one knows what goes in what bin. So everyone kind of just throws it into the general waste. Again, let's talk about consumer behavior. Unless you make it clear for me, I get confused. I get frustrated. I want to do something good here. I don't really know what. All the organizations were spending all their money to sort their house out, get it in the brochure, etc., etc. But what you realize is the opportunity is actually the consumers that they serve. And the consumers that all of us in, commerce or in banking or in payments, we serve millions and billions of consumers around the world. Actually, if we can help them do more and then help them engage in this topic, because they all want to anyway, and we can come on to the data that proves that.
Yeah.
the opportunity is so much bigger. The scale of change is so much bigger. So let's go and tackle that. And Echo was built on the kind of the hypothesis and the thesis of there are billions of consumers tapping their card, buying 10, 20 things a day. Let's try and get to them. Let's try and help them do what they really, really want to do from a human level. Like I actually really want to do good in the world because I'm a good human being. Yeah. Let's try and do that. So Echo is here to facilitate that. And it wasn't just me. I'm one of 3 or 4 founders, and we all came together kind of in various places going, we can solve this problem. We can solve this problem. So Echo built from there.
I really resonates. I think generally most people do, whether that's, brand, merchant, consumer, they want to do the right thing and try to support, but maybe just not sure how they can, some of the obvious things, like you said, but even then it's maybe a bit of a tick box exercise, but what really can we do a bit more consistently? And I think, it's an interesting one. But yeah, it's a great model. I'm really interested in how it all works, and I'm sure the listeners are. So we'll have a look at that. But before we do, I think, there's maybe a few myths out there, that maybe, you sort of alluded to it, and we've alluded to it, but that consumers don't actually care about sustainability. It's far too complicated. It's expensive, but it's especially for maybe an e-commerce brand that is trying to focus on their own, growth, and they think, oh, sustainability, and it's a tricky one. What would you say to that?
It can be tricky, I think. Yeah. I think people think it's tricky. It's because there's so many aspects to it. There's not a silver bullet going, this is the one answer to sustainability. That isn't true. So it is a tricky subject. If it wasn't tricky, we would have solved it as a society. So I think it's kind of acknowledging that this can be a tricky thing. From a consumer point of view, I guess the best rationale or the best kind of evidence to this is I think the biggest survey ever done in this space was done about a year ago. And it showed that 89% of consumers want to do more on climate action, but they believe that only 43% of their peers do, which is interesting. Because that kind of shows this spiral of silence of, I care, but I'm not necessarily sure you care. But you're saying you care, and you're not necessarily sure I care, which is just as interesting psychology to it. But it shows that consumers are there and they want to do more. So I think that myth should be completely eradicated. There are people who don't care and don't want to do it, but those voices shouldn't stop the vast majority of us who are leaning in. So again, it's kind of acknowledging there are people who don't necessarily believe climate change is real. That's fine. But there are majority, 89% do and want to do something about it. Yeah. Then you get on to the cost element. And I think the cost element for us, and this comes back to when we were building the business, it's actually twofold. One is it's a consumer problem, and the other it's a business problem. So I have to grow my revenue. I've got a cost challenge. Every business everywhere, I think I've just said 2 lines that are absolutely discussed in every executive committee everywhere, right? That's just life. When we started to build a business, we knew we had to solve that problem. We have to show people that you can do this in a commercially viable way for a business, because that kind of gets over that initial barrier of, I know consumers want it, but it costs me money. Well, actually, no. You can have a solution here, one solution of many, but one solution that is entirely free, can actually generate you revenue. Okay, that solves that. Then you come to consumer point of view. How do you solve this thing around consumers and their price? And what we've learned is there is definitely price elasticity there. Consumers are willing to pay a little bit more if it's where I am. Yeah. If it's where I am. Am I willing to go hugely out of my way to go and spend another 50% more to go and do something? Yeah. Vast majority of people no. Some yes, vast majority no. So you've got to have a solution that is where the consumer is, that aligns their values, that makes me money, or at least doesn't lose me money as a business. And from a consumer point of view, adds a little bit on, but not so much that changes my behavior at all in terms of kind of my engagement with a brand. I think that's where we come in best.
Yeah. I think, as a consumer, you maybe discovered this new brand, and you've got your usual go-to brands in this thing that you're buying. I got to think of an item. We won't think of an item, but you found this new brand, and if it's very clear that they're very much sustainability runs through their veins in a genuine way, and knowing that actually this new brand I've discovered they've got some great products. It's a beautiful, brand story, and it's, it's just everything stacking up. But you're obviously quite just that smidge more likely to try this new brand if, they are, on board with, the sustainability side, investing, contributing, giving back, and so forth. So it's I think it's, as we'll come to, I think it's
it's an edge. And also we found it with employees as well, people in your team. I can see in the background B Corp, right? You're a B Corp organization, but I want to work with a business that shares my values. I want to buy off a business that shares my values. Now, if someone's going to offer me 100% more salary, okay, different conversation. But if it's a like for like, people want to be in brands that they feel good for, and I want to relate to them.
So I think we're in agreement. It's it's a great thing for brands to be looking at, and it's a lot more than I think a lot of brands maybe doing a few things. They're talking about this, that, and the other on their about us page, and they're depending on what they're selling, there's a few bits and bobs, but what we're talking about with you guys and your and Eco is very much sort of sustainability, living on the checkout and living in the checkout. So I think it'd be good to sort of step through how that all works. It's very, very intriguing. I think a lot of our listeners will be very keen to understand how it actually works.
Yeah. Okay. So the best way to show it is through a consumer journey, right? This is a customer experience. You are on a site. I'm on your merchant site, I'm on your retailer site, and you bought your products and you're about to go through the basket or the checkout journey to actually convert and buy the product. That's where our product shows. So native in the experience, so you build it into your shopper experience or whatever experience you may have on a commerce site. And a widget pops up and says, did you know the environmental footprint of a purchase like this is broadly X? Would you like to add on X pence to directly compensate for that by funding a local project that is meaningful to you as a retailer and meaningful to you as a consumer, or round up and fund wildlife conservation in Africa because you're buying something for kids and kids love lions, and actually I've contributed to saving a lion because I bought this purchase. It's all in that moment there where the magic happens for us. Like, there's lots of elements to it, but for us. And the way to think about it is that peak end moment, which I'm sure you know from the consumer psychology point of view, is I can make you feel brilliant about yourself and the brand in that final moment to make you super happy and go, actually, you know what? I love this brand. I'm going to go back and I'm going to shop at this brand over brand, what we said earlier, brand A versus brand B. Or in that moment, all built into that experience. And it's an incredible space, right? Because you've actually got people's eyeballs. They're really focused on that moment because they've got to be, because actually choosing the final bit of the product or the final checkout process. And it's a moment that's kind of invisible, and you get through it and it's pretty boring. But actually, if I can make you feel good in that moment, and I can therefore increase your conversion, and you come out and go peak end, brilliant. That's kind of where we sit. And I could talk about peak end moment. I'm sure we've had other people on the podcast talking about that moment. It is an incredibly important moment in any customer journey. And if you can nail it, you get more customers, you get more advocacy. You've got to nail it. In the same way, when you leave an Uber driver, be very happy when you leave. You get a better rating. Always say thank you. Always last little comments. You get a better rating.
Isn't it? So I think it's a bit, it's not the same, but it's similar to, you've gone into you've gone to your restaurant of choice. You've had an amazing experience. And then, you're, on some of the terminals, you've got an option to, donate something, or, in shops and so forth. Obviously that you don't necessarily know exactly where that's going in some of those instances. But what we're saying here is it's very clear, right? We're working with this specific charity, or we're, this particular project in our city, or this particular school that we're supporting, and so forth. So it becomes quite a lot more personal, a lot more real, a lot more, oh, do you know what? I love that sort of thing. And that's what most people, within reason, like you say, it's not like a massive commitment. It's just, like you say, it could just be a rounding up, but a rounding up over thousands of transactions obviously can lead to a considerable contribution, donation to a great cause. Yeah,
exactly. And if you don't want to relate to it, because the way we've built the product, you don't have to click, you just scroll past. So it's in no way a barrier. Again, when you're building a business like this, you need to be careful of checkout conversion, etc. More clicks. We all know that the implication more clicks. There's no more clicks. If you don't engage, scroll straight past by, and away you go.
Yeah.
But the majority of people engage. And if they don't engage, they'll like the fact that you have.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm on board. I am 100%
Got an advocate.
I'm like, yes. Do you know what? This is a lovely thing to do. It's ticking a lot of boxes, not boxes, but it's really just like, that's just great. That is just great. Obviously, we're supporting local, national causes, and no doubt as the brand, you're obviously choosing who those are. So it's something that's close to the founders, and something that you're genuinely interested in. But then I guess, okay, that transaction has then been and gone, but obviously we've had some support in how many percentage of cases for those courses. But what I'm interested in is, okay, so we've started sort of gathering that sort of sustainable data at the transaction level. So what other maybe commercial marketing opportunities are maybe available to you that maybe weren't if you weren't doing this?
Yeah. So again, how do we build businesses, help them grow? Like that's a big part. We are a commercial enterprise trying to help people grow their business by making the world a better place. Like we think a lot about this. And through our solution, you have a message to go back to your consumers, whether they interacted or not, about what you as a brand have done and facilitated. So let's say you've rolled Echo out for a year. Your consumers have donated, let's say, £1 million to Impact over X period of time. You can then go to your consumers and go, this is what we, as a collective, as people who have engaged with my brand, this is what we have done. And by the way, this is the projects that it's supported, and this is the impact of those projects in your local community. That's kind of a brilliant marketing message. You can go back to consumers and go, this is what we have done. Now, if me as a consumer has done something, then there's also a message to go back to me, Ollie Cook, and go, this is what you've done this year. This is the impact you have. And you can guarantee that as a customer, when I've got a choice of shop A or B, the one who said all this good stuff that makes me feel great, because I'll engage in it, because you've proven that through the data. Like we can tell you which ones have, which ones haven't, etc. I know where I'm coming back. And what we're trying to do is help brands move away from future promises of, we kind of plan for net zero by, the famous line, net zero by 20 never, and commitments for all these kind of things. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what you've done, the exact amount of money, and the exact impact it's had in the exact location. Yeah. Let's talk about that. It's fact. And therefore, you as a brand are extremely protected, because we're talking about facts of things that have happened, not future promises of things that we don't really know how we're going to do in the first place. This is done. And it's our job to do all that for you. Right? We'll facilitate that. We'll make that happen. All that. That's our job. We'll give all that information to you. You then serve it.
They're getting sort of exact numbers in effect around the business as a whole, and then your as a consumer to that brand's impact.
Yeah, you can get that. It depends. You need a bit of engagement there. Just again, transparently, it depends on how people deploy it. There are different ways. If you want on consumer level, we can do that. But as a brand, you can have a live ticker on your website that keeps going up every day. Yeah, which is really interesting. Or you can have a live feed on your social media going, this month, this is what we've done. This is the impact we've had. Just to continue.
So in terms of that loyalty, then is where we're sort of, obviously we're driving at here is people coming back, which is, one of the keys to the kingdom of a successful e-com brand when we get down to it. The acquisition, retention, balance, costs, etc. We've done about 120 podcasts on that one.
Yeah.
But so this sort of retention piece, especially, I think these brands, like independent brands, obviously all brands, but trying to get this retention is the key lever for success quite often.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got to be honest, right? 95% of that is because of the product they make, right? The product they make or the product they sell. But the little bit of edge, everyone's after that marginal gains, and you can get that. You can get that in a way that is commercially viable, that is brilliant, and etc. Majority, you have to have a good product, etc. on the top of it, otherwise people won't come back. And we all know that. I can say whatever I want about consumers engaging in sustainability, but if your product doesn't meet up, it doesn't meet up.
Yeah.
But this is the bit that can give you that edge that keeps people that little bit more.
So it's giving them that, every industry is very crowded, isn't it? In reality of,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where we go with, right, let's talk about, fashion, outdoor, automotive, they're very, very crowded in every market, you know, costs, acquisition, retention, different discussions, challenges there. So just being sort of genuinely, genuine about your sort of sustainability actions that you're making as a brand, and investing in that, in a genuine way, and sort of acting on that, is making you as a brand more memorable, more sticky. It's a real. I guess more and more people are doing it, which we'll come to. So, which is great, great. So then it's like, is there like a? Well, we'll come to that actually, but I think
yeah,
it's trying to balance. Obviously, you've got to do it for the right reason, but at the same respect, we are running, or brands are running, a commercial business. But what a great business to run, where you're actually genuinely, doing great, kind, investing in different projects and so forth. So they're great businesses to run. We've had a lot of, obviously B Corp, for examples, businesses. We love working with B Corps because they're just the way they think about things, the
yeah.
way that they treat their team, the way that they work with us in the nice way, and the way they ultimately think. Nice is a bit of a nice word, but in reality, they're just good people to work with. If you're attracting those people to your business, what a great business to own.
Exactly. Totally with you on
Yeah.
that. Exactly.
Okay, so I guess it's trying to also find this line, because we want to educate. We want to educate the customers in what we're doing in terms of sustainability and the things that we believe in. But it's like, almost then also, how far do we go with that? We don't necessarily want to lecture them all the time with sustainability. I think, have you got any examples of maybe brands that sort of, it's difficult probably question, because maybe we might not want to say brand names, but the way that certain brands really sort of promote their sustainability investment, what they do, what are some things that some brands are doing well, you would say, that maybe our
Yeah.
listeners can get advice from?
Um, it depends on levels, right? You've got people like Patagonia who are obviously through and through sustainability. That is hard to do, but their customers are unbelievably loyal, right? So they've done a superb job there, and there's lots of interesting things there. I think it's actually more about brands taking their first steps in this journey. So lots of brands who are starting to lean in. I get Origin coffee. I don't even know about Origin coffee.
Yeah, I've had it. Yeah.
I now get that delivered, and
Yeah.
I buy that coffee because I like the coffee and I get it delivered. So that's why I buy it. But I would choose them over others because they actually talk about sustainability. So they're a B Corp. They talk about sustainability story. That's interesting for me. That gives me the differentiated edge.
Yeah.
And I think if I look across lots of things that I buy, again, people have that little bit of an edge. Another good example is, I've got them here actually. This is not placed, by the way. Coral Eyewear. So Coral Eyewear, we do a partnership with them. It's not placed for that reason, but they make sunglasses made out of fishing nets taken out of the ocean.
Fabulous.
Super high quality products. It's not kind of, and we've got a partnership with them. But again, brands that are starting to lean into it, but have high quality products and propositions anyway. It's just everything that adds to that story, that narrative. I think stands out. There's 3 brands there. I go different levels, right? Patagonia, Origin Coffee, and Coral Eyewear, all of which.
Straight away, we've got to get all 3 of them on the podcast. If you can facilitate that for us, that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm actually after some new my glasses have had it. I need to.
I highly recommend Coral Eyewear.
Yeah, no, I genuinely will have a look, because I'm literally, I think I'm away next week, but the week after, it's like, right, I need new glasses. Let's get that. Get that booked in. In. Right, Ollie. We've covered some great ground. Great topic. I think what I'm going to do now is a bit of a quick fire round. Okay.
Are
you ready?
Nervous. Let's go.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
So, one word on this one. Biggest myth about sustainability in business.
Consumers. More than one word, but the consumers don't want it.
Okay. I'm nervous about this one.
Go on.
Will Pay or Ecom Pay? Which partnership changed Echo more?
I have 2 kids and I don't have a favorite, by the way. So there you go.
Brilliant. Okay. Sorry, that was naughty of me. I
It's fine. We'll go.
So much. Should every e-commerce checkout have a carbon label by 2027?
Should they? Yes. Will they? No.
Yeah. Sustainability in 5 years. Table stakes, differentiator, or gone from the conversation?
Differentiator.
Yeah. Still in 5 years.
And I that's a sad answer, but I think
it's a shame, wouldn't it, if that was the, obviously it's going to take that long for people really to get on board. Yeah.
These things take time, and we're a global organization, global things. Like, it just takes time. But you can win if you go now. You win, and you win big.
Why do some brands, when they're sort of trying to, they're trying to do the right thing? Like we said, most people are genuinely, are good when they want to contribute, invest, and really have this sort of sustainability running through the business. But I guess people not sure maybe what to do. What would you say to those guys that are maybe, we're talking about payments here, but also it's like, what other things, and how I think people are maybe a bit like, oh, I know we should be doing something. I know we should be doing something, but we've, like you said, we've sorted the bins out. It's like, well, what else? Add those other 4 or 5 things, and we're planting some trees. But it's like, well, hang on. I think it's more really like this a knowledge thing. What would you say to those people that I'm sure we've got a lot of listeners right now that are right? Oh yeah, we need to sort the payment thing out. That looks so simple and so great, but it's like they're just ticking a box in this moment, aren't they? Potentially, whereas to try and ingrain that in the business more and more, what would you say to those guys?
I think there's probably 2 things. One is be kind to yourself. Right? This is complex. Like I said earlier, right? If there's a quick, easy solution to solve climate change, we would have all done it because we have to, right? So be kind to yourself. It is complex. It is hard. We have a company motto, which I think I'd apply to this, which is start by starting. Right? It's the way that we approach everything in big, hairy challenges. Start by starting. And actually, it was an old boss of mine who said it to me, and I've kept it. I kind of.
So it's like how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, sort of thing.
Yeah. Just start. I mean, yes, trying to shift the whole organization to be fully sustainable from top to bottom. That's an unbelievably big challenge, especially if you're transforming a team versus starting new. Starting new is different. Transforming already, you're doing 10 million revenue a year.
Yeah,
that's going to be hard. And it's going to take time, but start by start making the early steps, whether it is, we start to do recycling. Yes, we'll start to have green energy. Yes, we'll start to put Echo in my checkout. Yes, we'll start to talk about our messaging.
Yeah.
Just start, and then things will slowly add up, and be kind to yourself to let that be the first thing you do. Just do something. And it will build, and then you'll see consumer appetite grow, and then you get more.
But what would be some of those things? Maybe what would you say? Some of those we're just starting. Okay, yeah, I agree, Ollie. Let's just start. But what could be 2 or 3 things that could lead to something more substantial?
Lead to something more. So obviously, deploy Echo. I mean, come on. Surely that is obviously the first one off the bat. The second would be have a look at people like B Corp. How can you join that? How can you do that? Or the SME Climb Hub, for example, and they help you figure out tracking your footprint. Okay, doing something like that.
I think the B Corp, obviously, we talk about B Corp a lot, but obviously going on the journey of becoming a B Corp just opens your eyes to a lot of things that you may think you want to do more, or you maybe think you're doing a lot of really, really responsible things. But it's this education piece, isn't it? You don't know what you don't know. So going through that process of becoming a B Corp, really opens your eyes, as you say, to, we really could work on that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
And it would land there. The other one which I've seen, and now I'm talking more kind of like medium to bigger size organizations, is have it as sustainability as part of the process when you're choosing a partner of some sort, even if it's your marketing agency. Are they actually aligned to B Corp? If they are, great. And if they're not, you know what? You're lower down the list somehow. If you
I like that one.
For everything, right? Do you have some element to it? It's a very simple way to you've put it in there. It's a question that you ask whenever you're finding a partner in any part of it. You've started something. you'll slowly over time start to make decisions. Then you realize that all your partners are in this space. And then you kind of, okay, now my supply chain, it's just simple steps. You don't have to come in and go, right, all of our partners are now B Corp. I'm going to get rid of everyone.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, is it? But just start it.
Yeah, great advice, Ollie. So for the guys that are with us still, I think, there's definitely some steps there that you can, have a little pause for a minute and think, right, do you know what? Let's have a look at B Corp. What does it entail? Where, how does the application, the process begin? Where does it start? What could we do? Suppliers, looking at the suppliers that we're working with, understanding that supply line. Obviously, a lot of our listeners very much are all over that. But then, like you say, marketing, on the marketing side, usually a lot of investment on marketing, the partners that you're working with, how they work. But obviously payments is a big one.
Yeah. I'd have to say that.
Yeah, I mean, let's stay there for a moment, because I think it is obviously obviously your tech really does enable that, as you say, that low touch opportunity for consumers and brands to really contribute. So I think sustainability has really changed enormously in the sort of the 5-6 years since you started Echo.
Yeah.
How has that conversation shifted inside finance and inside e-commerce brands? I think trying to get people to actually use it and get it. What are you sort of seeing on the front line with sort of leadership teams and the brands that you're working with?
I think it's really interesting, and ignore the pun here, this is not intended, but sustainability can be a hot topic sometimes, and it can kind of go through that ups and downs of it's on everyone's forefront of everyone's agenda, then it's not on everyone's agenda, and then it kind of isn't, and isn't. And the trajectory is obvious because it has to be. So it will always come back. Right? It's one of those, but it comes back down. For us, the conversations are they do evolve in that people are very much like, I needed to sort my house out. I needed to do carbon accounting for me as an organization. That has kind of changed to more around how do I build products and propositions that have that built into them. So it has shifted out, not just what we do, but actually organizations are less about tracking me, more about building value propositions that have it built in for my consumers. And we've definitely seen that shift over the last kind of 5 or 6 years. I think in the technology kind of startup space, organizations who were helping businesses track their footprint had kind of maybe hit a level of a peak. Whereas actually now it's the organizations that are helping people build value-add propositions that are seeing that kind of that spike at the moment. The other element I probably see is that flow of the sustainability officer in an organization, which is quite interesting. Is that sometimes they're there, then sometimes they go, and then sometimes they're there, then sometimes they go, and it kind of comes up and down, up and down. I think we're currently in a phase where they are on the way up a little bit, because they were up and then they've kind of gone. They're on the way up a little bit, but generally they're wrapped into other areas as well. So you have it as an add-on to your existing job, is that this is your part of your role. So it's kind of an evolution that happens. But the main one that we often see is still that barrier of sustainability costs me money. How am I going to solve that problem? That has been true throughout. And trying to solve that is a big part of where we spend our time and effort, right? We've got to make sure that it's commercially viable to you. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just reality. It's in the real world. Unless it makes me money, it's very hard for me to do it.
Yeah. It is that balance, isn't it? Ultimately, I think, as you say, most people really, really, really want to do the right thing and do the right thing by their people, by their, the planet and the local area where they run their business, and so on and so on and so on. But at the same respect, you've got to have a commercially viable business that can, look after these people and enable you to do things that are the right things. And so it's trying to get about, very much the B Corp sort of way. So it's having a commercially sound business at the core of, doing the right things for the people that are involved in the business, that are engaged in the business, they're in the supply line of the business, they're buying from the business. I'm semi-obsessed with it, now in terms of just the way we run this business, from my business and then the businesses we work with. We just, it's almost like I'm just so aware of it and the things that I buy and the way that those businesses, run their business, that I can see, if I'm It's just, I think almost like a switch flip maybe 5 years ago for me. I think, I could talk about this a lot, but I was,
I'm interested. I had two questions for you then. I know you're interviewing me, but I'm going to ask you. Quick fire questions, hey. So you are an advocate of sustainability and you're clearly passionate about it and make
yeah.
decisions based on it. What percentage of your friends do you think are also like you?
See, I would say not enough,
Yeah.
but then they might say that about me because they probably don't know that I am as passionate about it enough.
Yeah.
And if they did, I think they would be more sustainable, but they probably are. I just don't know it.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
because I think, that's sounding corny. I hang around with people that are, how can I put it? They're a bit like me, as a whole. So, they do care very much, very, very deeply about people and the way things are done and done right and doing the right thing by. So I would say they are, but I probably just, this is not in my face like they are. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. And I had it. So coming from a world of, doing lots of things that we're not in this space and now in it. When you speak to people and they're like, oh, I already do this. Oh, I use, Too Good To Go. Yeah. I started doing all this. Oh, I didn't realize that this was actually already built into your behaviors. We don't talk about it in the pub. That doesn't mean that it's not there.
I think that's what a lot of people listening, if they think, right, do you know what? Let's explore, let's explore the B Corp journey. And then when you start going through it's quite a journey with the application process and in terms of the commitment to go through it. But then you go, oh, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing. Oh, do you know what? We are doing that. We're not documenting that. We need to document that. But you're like tick 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 tick. Do you know what? And then it becomes like a bit of an addiction because you're like, I want to do more. I want to do more, not just to get the plaque, of course, but it's very much like, do you know what? We could improve on that. So the bins then, so where they go, where do they actually end up? Do they actually, so then we've followed, as you have to, follow through, all the supply line of all the different things and people we work with. And we've made some changes for sure. And it really just gives you that extra little, but until you sort of start, maybe it's putting a bit more focus onto it. It's, But no, was there another question for me, Ollie? Or is that
the other one was, what have you seen? So in terms of marketing communications, do you see people talk more or less about this? Or does it act as does it reduce my CAC? Cost of acquisition.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I know everyone
I was thinking, I thought you said cat there, and I was like, what are you talking about?
everyone listens to this knows what that is and spends time about it, no doubt.
Yes is the short version. I think more and more of our the world we're in, we work with about 100 merchants directly in any given time, and it's very much a conversation that our clients have with our account managers, or various conversations around what they're doing as a business, what they're investing in, or where they're putting a focus in terms of sort of cost of acquisition. It's similar to what you said. I don't have any numbers I can quote, but that sort of retention piece around helping them to really live true to themselves around what they believe in, but putting that more into the messaging, but in a genuine way. Absolutely. So we are seeing more of that sort of coming through, which is helping in some of the commercial side of things. Yeah.
Interesting.
Sort of future predictions. We're sort of sat here, in 3 years, sustainability, the transactional level is standard. You've got another 50,000 customers, and regulation sort of forced it maybe in that it's becoming the sort of norm, more of the norm, and that's the world we're in. And I think that's where we're heading. That's my sort of opinion, which is fabulous. But for the brands now, and you've touched on it already, for the brands now that are listening that really want to sort of make an impact now, what should those sort of 3 to 20 million pound brands be focused on now to do the right thing now, to really be, doing the right thing in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I like I said earlier, I think of a world where this is omnipresent, but I don't think it will get there in the short term. But brands who do it now will still have the differentiated element at that point. And the reason I think that is if you start now, so lean in now to do stuff, because when it is more kind of generic for everyone to have an element of it, if you have a history you have a story and a brand narrative, which is way stronger than someone who's just started it.
Yeah.
And you can't catch up. You can't catch up. So if you started now and in 5 years, when everyone has a version of it, you're the one who's saying, we've done 10 million to impact. This is the impact we've had. This is and I've got my own project now. It's over here in the community. So you'll win. You'll win then.
Yeah.
But you can't.
You're looking at your sustainability report from 4 years ago rather than trying to do your first one or
Yeah. You can't catch up in this space because it takes time. So go first and then you win now and you'll win then as well.
Yeah. Great. So I'm sure we've got some people still listening. I hope so, Ollie.
Maybe my mum. You never know.
So it's like, what are you going to do, Mum? Yeah. What are you going to do? And I think, feel free to reach out to me. Of course, reach out to Ollie. For those that want to reach out to you, Ollie, find out more about Echo, find out, reach out to you directly. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So echo.earth is a website. You can find us on Shopify, you can find us lots of places. Find me on LinkedIn, Ollie Cook, or anyone in the Echo team, right? We're actually quite a nice team. We hire based on personalities over anything else. So anyone in Echo, more than happy to lean in and have a conversation, even if it's as simple as, hey, I just don't know where to start. We know this is a very collaborative space. It might not be us who can help, but I probably know the person who can.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Yeah. So we'll link that up in the show notes. Final question then, Ollie. We'd like to finish with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners?
Do you know what? I have a level of dyslexia, meaning I find it very hard to read long books and kind of get into it. So I don't read as many books as I should. I listen to more audiobooks. So my suggestion is different. It's for people who have the mind like me, which needs to be a little bit shorter but quite impactful.
Yeah.
And it's a guy called John Sills, which we can put a link. I'm sure we'll put a link somewhere. He is part of a company called The Foundation, all about consumer psychology, consumer behavior, consumer propositions, consumer experiences. He has a blog that goes out, which is perfectly digestible for people like me, once a week. So I suggest follow him because he talks about customer experiences, which are phenomenal, but also utterly crazy, that people have kind of fallen in a trap into or not thinking properly. And every week you'll get something which is super interesting. You can apply to your job, what you're up to. You'll also see the world in a slightly different place. Yeah. And so it's not a book, although he has a book.
Yeah,
I'm not plugging a book.
Yeah.
His weekly blog I find amazing, and I know that he'll plug his own book in there.
Yeah, we'll link that up in the show notes. That sounds fabulous. That sounds like my cup of tea as well.
It is brilliant.
Yeah, I'm very much bite-sized. That's how I like to do things. I find it quite challenging to commit to a few hundred pages so far. I do try, but it is quite quite an interesting.
Same. I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm pretty sure they've read more books than me over the last week. No, I'm not pretty sure. I 100% know that's true.
Yeah. Well, Ollie, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show, and I look forward to catching up again.
Excellent. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.